Picture this. You are about to give the most important presentation of your entire life.
Right.
You spent weeks, maybe even months, crafting what you consider to be just the perfect message.
Oh, yeah. We've all been there.
Right. Your arguments are completely airtight.
Yeah.
Every possible objection, well, it's been accounted for.
Mm-hmm.
Your slides are like practically works of art at this point. And you are standing in the wings, waiting to go on, feeling completely ready to deliver this masterpiece of logic.
The adrenaline is pumping.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what if the success or failure of this massive presentation doesn't actually depend on your message at all?
Wow.
Yeah. What if the real outcome is determined by what happens in the critical, invisible window of time before you even open your mouth?
Well, it forces you to completely rethink the entire concept of preparation.
It really does.
The idea that you could have the most brilliant content in the world and yet still fail just because you neglected the context in which that content is received. That is a very unsettling reality for most professionals.
Unsettling is, it's the perfect word for it, honestly.
Yeah.
And it's exactly what we are getting into today.
I'm excited for this one.
Me too.
Yeah.
We are doing a deep dive into an extensive, like a 65-plus page Ultra Master Edition analysis of Robert Cialdini's book, Pre-Suasion.
Which is such a fascinating read.
Oh, completely. The subtitle is A Revolutionary Way to Influence and Persuade. And our mission today is singular. We want to figure out how to achieve what they call peak persuasion by setting the stage before the pitch even happens.
Right.
So, okay, let's unpack this. Because Cialdini is, he's already considered a titan in behavioral psychology, right?
Oh, absolutely. He's a legend in the field.
Yeah, his previous work has pretty much been the blueprint for decades.
Yeah, his earlier book, Influence, it essentially mapped the human operating system when it comes to compliance.
Right, the classic Six Principles.
Exactly. It gave us the terminology for things like social proof and scarcity. We use those words every day now.
We really do.
But Pre-Suasion, well, it looks at the timeline entirely differently.
Oh, so?
It suggests that even the most meticulously engineered message will just bounce right off an unprepared audience.
Wow, just bounce right off.
Right. The core thesis here is really about capitalizing on what Cialdini calls privileged moments for change.
Privileged moments for change. I like that.
It's a great phrase. The secret isn't rewriting your pitch. It's, recognizing that timing and mental readiness, well, they dictate how that pitch is processed in the first place.
Which honestly leads us into how most of us approach this entirely backward.
Oh, totally backward.
Yeah. The course text describes this persona called the unprepared persuader. And I'll admit, I've fallen into this trap myself.
I think we all have, honestly.
Right. We obsess over our own content.
Yeah.
We operate under this huge assumption that human beings are perfectly rational calculators.
Yes.
Like if my logic is flawless, my data is sound, well, the other person has absolutely no choice but to agree with me.
Yeah, but the problem with that message-centric trap is that it completely ignores the cognitive load of the audience.
Right.
The unprepared persuader is just out there trying to change a deeply held belief through, brute force logic.
Hammering away.
Exactly. But savvy persuaders, they don't try to change minds. They focus on changing states of mind.
States of mind. That is a huge distinction.
It really is. Altering someone's deeply entrenched attitude is, well, it's incredibly difficult, and it almost always triggers a defensive response.
People dig their heels in.
Exactly. But altering their focus of attention for a brief, transient moment right before you make your request,
Yeah.
that is entirely doable. In fact, the analysis brings in this great quote from Sun Tzu's The Art of War to kind of anchor this idea.
I remember this.
Yeah, it says, every battle is won before it is fought.
I just love that framing. It really makes me think of planting a garden,
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Yeah, like approaching persuasion purely by obsessing over the quality of your argument. It's honestly like buying top-tier, incredibly expensive seeds and then just, tossing them onto a concrete driveway.
Right, exactly.
It does not matter how perfect the seed is.
No, it does.
If you haven't tilled the soil, if you haven't prepared the physical environment for that specific seed to take root, nothing is going to grow. You have to change the state of the ground first.
I really like that. And to take your gardening analogy a step further into cognitive science, tilling the soil is essentially manipulating the brain's internal search engine.
Okay, manipulating the search engine. Tell me more about that.
Well, when you make a request, the audience's brain instantly searches its memory and its current environment to decide how to respond.
Right. It's scanning for clues.
Exactly. If the environment is concrete, meaning, defensive, distracted, or just indifferent, the search results come back negative.
And your seed dies.
Yep, the seed dies. The master persuader prepares the soil so that the brain's search engine only pulls up results that align with the incoming message.
Okay, so if changing their state of mind is how we prepare the ground, what is the actual mechanism? Like, what is the shovel we are using to till this psychological soil?
Well, based on the analysis, it all comes down to one thing, and that is attention.
Attention.
Attention is the absolute currency of persuasion. The foundational rule Cialdini establishes here is this: what's focal is causal.
What's focal is causal.
Right. This means that whatever we focus our attention on, we automatically perceive as, more important, more influential, and often the literal cause of whatever happens next.
Wow, just because we're looking at it.
Exactly. The human brain is, it's a cognitive miser. It really wants to save energy.
Right, it's lazy.
Very lazy. Instead of evaluating every single variable in a room, it just takes whatever happens to be in its immediate spotlight of attention and assigns it disproportionate weight.
And the text breaks down the tools to command that attention into two distinct categories, right? Attractors and magnetizers.
Yes. So attractors are the initial hooks. They operate almost involuntarily.
Reflexively.
Exactly. Think about novelty, like a sudden loud noise or a completely unexpected image popping up on a screen.
Okay, sure.
Then you have contrast, like placing a very cheap item right next to a highly expensive one, so the brain is basically forced to notice the difference.
Right.
And then there's salience, which involves emotionally charged or highly relevant information, like hearing your own name spoken across a noisy room.
The cocktail party effect.
Precisely. Attractors force the audience to look.
But, getting someone to look isn't exactly the same as holding their gaze.
No, it's not.
So I imagine that's where the magnetizers come in.
Spot on. Magnetizers sustain the focus. So storytelling is a prime example of this because the human brain is just hardwired to follow narratives to their conclusion.
We always want to know how the story ends.
We can't help it. And questions operate very similarly.
How so?
Well, when you are asked a question, your brain is absolutely compelled to generate an answer, even if you don't speak it aloud.
It just automatically starts searching.
Yes. And uncertainty or mystery is perhaps the strongest magnetizer of all. The brain just hates ambiguity. It will lock its attention onto a mystery until it achieves some kind of closure.
I have to admit, when I first read this part of the analysis, I was a little bit skeptical.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, the idea that human perception is this malleable,
Yeah.
it just feels a little exaggerated. Like, are we really so easily swayed that a simple shift in focus basically rewrites our reality?
It's a fair question.
But then the source text highlights these two massive examples, and they really blew my mind. The London terrorism polling, and then a 1993 study on students.
Oh, yes. Those are powerful.
I want to throw these back to you because the results are honestly staggering, and I just need to understand the underlying mechanism here.
Let's do it.
Let's look at the London example first.
Mm.
So researchers asked people, given the recent terrorist attacks in London, how dangerous do you perceive the threat of terrorism to be?
Right.
How does just bringing up the event skew the data so wildly?
So it triggers something called the availability heuristic.
Okay.
When researchers frame the question by front-loading a specific, very vivid memory, in this case, the recent attacks in London, they force the brain's spotlight right onto that single event.
They make them look at it.
Exactly. And because the memory is suddenly so easily available to the conscious mind, the brain mistakenly concludes, well, if I can recall this so vividly and so quickly, it must be highly probable and extremely dangerous.
Oh, wow.
The threat feels imminent purely because of the recency of the thought, not because the statistical likelihood of terrorism has actually increased at all.
That is wild.
Yeah, you made it focal, so the brain made it causal.
That makes total sense. I mean,
Well,
you force them to look at a fire,
yeah,
and suddenly they think the whole world is burning.
that's a great way to put it.
But, okay, the 1993 student study is even wilder to me.
Oh, this one is fascinating.
So researchers asked one group a very simple leading question. They just asked, are you unhappy?
Right.
And that group was 375% more likely to report being unhappy than the group that was simply asked, are you happy?
Yeah.
I mean, a nearly 400% spike in unhappiness just from hearing a single word in a question. What is actually happening in the brain there?
So this is a beautiful illustration of what psychologists call the positive test strategy.
The positive test strategy.
When human beings are asked a question, our default cognitive setting is to look for confirmations or, hits rather than misses.
We want to validate the question.
Precisely. If I ask you, are you unhappy? Your brain doesn't just objectively scan your entire life. It specifically scans your recent memory for instances of unhappiness to see if the criteria are met.
So it pulls up like that argument you had with a friend.
Yes, or the flat tire you got last week.
Right.
Suddenly, your conscious awareness is just flooded with negative data. You literally construct a temporary reality where you are unhappy simply because the magnetizer, the question itself, dictated the search terms.
So if a single verbal prompt, like just the word unhappy, can completely alter our internal search engine, what happens when the prompt isn't verbal at all?
Now we're getting into the really deep stuff.
Right. What if the prompt is literally just the physical space we are sitting in? Because the text naturally moves from verbal framing to what it calls persuasive geographies.
Yes, and the principle of what's focal is causal applies just as heavily to our physical environments.
Oh, so.
The underlying psychological concept here is associative coherence. As the analysis notes, I link, therefore I think.
I link, therefore I think. Catchy.
It is, right?
Yeah.
Our neural networks are essentially massive webs of associated concepts. So when you trigger one node in that network, the surrounding nodes light up automatically.
Okay, I follow.
Pre-suasion in physical spaces is just about intentionally triggering the right nodes.
And the classic example provided in the text is the French wine shop.
A classic for a reason.
Yeah, so you want to sell more French wine, but you don't discount the price. You don't put up flashy signs. You literally just play French accordion music through the store speakers.
It's so simple, but the mechanics behind that are just fascinating.
Yeah, break that down for us.
The customer hears the music, right? But they don't consciously think, French music, I must buy French wine.
Obviously not.
Right. Instead, the music subconsciously activates the semantic network in their brain related to France.
Like romance, Paris, vineyards.
Exactly. Sophistication, all of it. And because those concepts are now hyper-accessible in their mind, when their eyes actually scan the wine shelf, the French bottles just feel inexplicably more appealing.
That is so subtle.
It is. The environment completely primed the behavior without them knowing.
And the analysis points out that this works with physical sensations too, like handing someone a warm cup of coffee when they walk into your office, just to foster interpersonal warmth.
Yes, temperature matters.
Yeah. It feels almost absurd, honestly, that holding a hot ceramic mug makes my brain actually think you are a more trustworthy, warm person.
Well, what's fascinating here is how deeply our abstract social concepts are rooted in our early physical experiences.
What do you mean?
This is a concept called embodied cognition. When we are infants, the feeling of physical warmth like being held by a parent is inextricably linked to the feeling of safety, trust, and social care.
Oh, wow. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, those neural pathways, they develop together. So decades later, when a client holds a warm mug, it physically activates the exact same neurochemistry associated with interpersonal trust.
That's incredible.
You are literally persuading their physiology to view you favorably before you even start the meeting.
And the reverse is true with physical weight too, right? The text brings up the concept of e-readers.
Yes. We constantly use physical metaphors for cognitive states. Like, we talk about a heavy topic or a weighty decision.
Right.
Gravity and mass literally map to seriousness and importance in the human brain. And the text points out this brilliant kind of unintended consequence of modern product design.
Yeah, tell the listeners about this because this blew my mind.
When manufacturers strip away all the weight of an e-reader to make it, incredibly light and easy to hold, they might actually be inadvertently sabotaging the perceived value of the books on it.
That is so counterintuitive.
It is, but a physically weightless device primes the reader's brain to expect intellectually light or, superficial content.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because as I was reading through the French music studies and the warm coffee examples, I found myself kind of playing devil's advocate.
Oh.
Yeah, I was channeling one of the criticisms that is actually mentioned directly in the source text.
Which one?
Well, doesn't some of this just seem like common sense in hindsight?
Oh,
Like, of course French music sells French wine. It feels a little less like a behavioral science breakthrough and more like, I don't know, just basic retail intuition.
Right. And Cialdini addresses that critique head on, and I think it's a very vital distinction to make. Intuitive appeal is not the same thing as systematic strategy.
Okay, expand on that.
Hindsight bias makes us look at the French wine study and say, well, obviously.
Right.
But before that study was published, how many retail managers were consciously, rigorously designing their auditory environments to trigger specific semantic networks?
Probably zero.
Very, very few. The true value of persuasion isn't in realizing these things make sense after the fact. The value is in the rigorous, systematic application of these insights.
So not just leaving it to chance.
Exactly. It's the difference between occasionally having a good interaction because you just happen to offer someone a coffee versus intentionally designing a client intake process that universally fosters psychological safety.
Okay, I see. It's moving from kind of accidental success to engineered consistency.
Beautifully said.
Which brings us to a major pivot in the text. Because if handing someone a warm drink is a way to build, like, temporary physical trust, what is the ultimate bulletproof form of psychological trust?
The holy grail of persuasion.
Exactly. And based on the new material in this book, it's shared identity.
Yes. This is perhaps the most significant addition to Cialdini's entire framework.
Really?
Oh, yeah. For 30 years, the whole world basically relied on his 6 original principles of influence: reciprocity, scarcity, authority, consistency, liking, and social proof.
The classics.
Right. Those were the definitive levers of persuasion. But in Pre-Suasion, he introduces this new 7th principle, which is unity.
So if we connect this to the bigger picture, how does unity fundamentally differ from the original principle of liking? Because, I mean, on the surface, they sound very, very similar.
They do sound similar.
Right. Like, I like you, therefore I am unified with you.
Yeah, but the psychological depth is vastly different. So, liking is a positive evaluation of someone else. I like you because you are funny, or because you pay me compliments, or maybe we just share a hobby.
Okay.
You are still the other. You're just an other that I happen to view favorably.
I see.
Unity, however, erases the boundary of the other entirely.
Wow.
It is about shared identity. It's the feeling of we. When you arrange for someone to perceive you as part of their in-group, you completely bypass standard cognitive defenses.
Because you're one of them.
Exactly. From an evolutionary standpoint, we are hardwired to protect and agree with our kin. So when unity is established, you aren't really persuading an outsider anymore. You are essentially persuading a version of yourself.
Okay, and the source material divides this into 2 specific categories, right?
Yes.
Being together, which relies on shared demographics like nationality or ethnicity.
Yeah.
And then acting together, which is forged through like synchronous action or really deep collaboration.
Exactly.
So I want to ground this for you, the listener, because, the target audience for this deep dive is pretty advanced. How does a manager or an executive actually deploy acting together on a systemic level, like on a Monday morning?
Well, the text mentions a great case study about consultants in a glass office.
Oh, yes. I love this one. Walk us through it.
The consultant example is just a perfect foundational model for this. So typically, outside consultants are viewed with intense suspicion by employees.
Oh, for sure. They come in and start judging everyone.
Right. They are the ultimate other. But in this case study, instead of sequestering the consultants in some private boardroom to write their reports...
Which is what always happens.
Exactly. Instead, they were placed in a central office with glass windows.
Huh.
Simply by working in a highly visible, shared geographic space, they were physically acting together with the company. The visual transparency itself created a shared cognitive space.
So it basically dismantled the us versus them dynamic without a single word even being spoken.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to scale that up to a really advanced application, think about a massive corporate merger.
Okay.
Usually, executives try to persuade the newly acquired company to adopt their culture through endless PowerPoint presentations and top-down memos.
Total unprepared persuader approach.
Exactly. But a leader utilizing persuasion would look at the geographic and operational layout first. They would intentionally design projects that require synchronous, high-stakes collaboration between legacy employees and new employees way before ever delivering that culture pitch.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah, they would force acting together to manufacture unity. So by the time the new cultural initiatives are actually introduced, the soil is already tilled.
The defenses are down.
Yep. The defenses are down because the we has already been established.
That is just a fundamental paradigm shift for organizational architecture.
It really is.
But this brings us to the inevitable elephant in the room.
I had that feeling we'd get here.
We have to. I mean, when we discuss hacking the brain search engine and flooding people with leading questions to literally alter their reality and manufacturing a sense of we really have to talk about the ethics
Absolutely.
because it can sound incredibly manipulative.
And the analysis doesn't shy away from the ethics question at all. It actively confronts it.
How does it frame it?
Well, the text sketches out two opposing personas. The manipulative persuader views these psychological triggers basically as loopholes to exploit.
Right.
They use pre-suasion to mask a poor argument or to, trick someone into a decision that actually harms them. They destroy long-term trust for short-term gain.
Classic manipulation.
Right. The ethical persuader, conversely, uses persuasion merely to ensure their genuinely valuable message gets a fair, undistracted hearing.
And Cialdini makes a very pragmatic, business-focused argument against manipulation, doesn't he? Like, it's not just about taking the moral high ground.
No, it's highly practical. He argues that duplicity is structurally unsustainable.
Structurally unsustainable.
Yes. When leaders use manipulative tactics, they breed this corrosive culture of dishonesty within the organization. Even if a CEO, say, only cares about the bottom line and genuinely doesn't care about morality at all, they still have to care about the fallout.
Right.
Manipulative environments inevitably lead to high employee burnout, massive turnover, and completely obliterated customer loyalty.
This raises an important question, though. For the person out there trying to apply this, where is the line? I mean, how do you self-regulate to ensure you are setting the stage ethically?
Well, Cialdini offers what he calls the ultimate pre-persuasive test.
The pre-persuasive test.
It is a single question that you must ask yourself before deploying any of these environmental or psychological primes.
What is?
Would I want to be persuaded in this way? If you would feel angry or tricked or compromised if the exact same tactic were used on you, well, you have crossed into manipulation. Transparency has to remain the absolute bedrock of the interaction.
And speaking of transparency, just to give you, the listener, a fully balanced view of the source material, we should probably note some of the limitations outlined in the analysis. I mean, this isn't a flawless magic wand.
No, definitely not. The text itself is quite dense. It's over 400 pages. And the analysis notes it can suffer from repetition at times.
Okay, good to know.
And certain psychological concepts are introduced, but maybe lack the deep dive some practitioners might really want. Furthermore, jumping straight into persuasion without a frame understanding of the original 6 principles from his first book, Influence.
Yeah.
It can leave a reader kind of struggling to piece the whole puzzle together. It really is an advanced sequel. It's not a standalone primer.
So what does this all mean? When we synthesize this entire analysis, the divide between success and failure, and really between ethics and manipulation, comes down to the long game.
Yes, the long game.
Ethical persuasion creates an environment where people can clearly evaluate the authentic value you offer. The text warns about creating a skeptical target.
Oh, that's a crucial concept.
Right. This is the psychological, immunological response we all have when we realize we've been played. Once your audience transforms into a skeptical target, their cognitive defenses become basically impenetrable.
Yeah.
You haven't just lost the sale, you've permanently poisoned the soil.
Exactly. You cannot plant a seed in scorched earth.
No.
The skeptical target will view even your most honest, genuinely helpful future proposals through a lens of profound distrust.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, peak persuasion is entirely about setting the stage.
Yes.
Getting that all-important yes isn't about battering your audience with flawless logic right in the moment. It is about thoughtfully arranging the context before they encounter your message. It's front-loading their attention using attractors and magnetizers. It's designing a physical geography that primes the exact right neural pathways. And it's establishing a genuine, unified identity.
You are simply clearing the psychological runway so your message can land safely.
I love that. But I want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative thought to mull over today.
Oh, here we go.
Based on everything we've unpacked about how sensitive the human brain is to context. If our decisions are so deeply influenced by the hidden primes around us, like the tempo of background music, or the physical weight of an object in our hands, or the phrasing of a simple question,
Yeah.
how many of your daily choices, from the coffee you buy to the policies you support, were actually made for you in the invisible moments before you even realized a choice was on the table?
Wow. It definitely forces you to look at the architecture of your own life with a much more critical eye, doesn't it?
It really does. Next time you step into the wings to give that massive presentation, just remember, the battle is won before you show the first slide. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.